Good afternoon once again to those who've joined us so far. The numbers are gradually increasing. And before we share a trailer with you to get you more excited about the conversation that will ensue, please know that you're very welcome to share questions, comments, statements using the Q&A feature, and we'll be very happy to present them to Eddie. Without any further ado, if we could have the trailer of the film Eddie the Eagle being played for our attendees now.
I was in the hospital for a year when I was a kid. All the doctors said I should give up sports.
Where do you think you're going, young man?
The Olympics.
You better take this. Put your medals in.
Thanks, Mum.
For as long as I can remember, it has been my ambition to become an Olympian.
Yeah.
Eddie, you are not an athlete!
I just needed to find the right sport.
Britain hasn't had a ski jumper since 1929.
I'm going to be a ski jumper.
He's going to break his neck.
I'm gonna break his neck.
The time to start jumping is when you're 5 or 6.
I heard you were a champion, so I was thinking maybe you could give me a few tips.
Give up? There's one for free. Watch this guy, #2 in the world. And he knew what he was doing.
It's not actually going to jump, is it?
You're not going to give up, are you? You want your moment, Eddie? You got to do this for real. Our strategy will best be described as ugly but effective.
The Olympics is associated with certain qualities, excellence, achievement. They have no desire to associate with defeat.
You're a disgrace to the sport.
Good. Personal best! And we're a disgrace!
Mr. Edwards,
Your jump doesn't count.
Because you just changed the rules. Don't I have a right to represent my country?
no.
My dreams turned into a nightmare.
It's a world that doesn't want to know you.
So what's new? The British Olympic Association is trying to stop me. I have to do this.
The press all want to hear your story.
I was kicked off every team I was ever on before I even got a chance to prove myself. I take jumping very seriously, nearly as much as proving people wrong.
And where do you think you're going?
The Olympics.
You thought you might need this?
It's higher than you jumped before, faster than you've gone before. You can break bones. You're lucky if you can walk again. As your coach, I think you're crazy. But as your friend, fly. You're Eddie the Eagle.
I'm sure this has created a lot of excitement for both sports enthusiasts, film lovers, and just generally people ready to be inspired. I once again welcome everybody to this edition of the webinar planned for your benefit by the 3 Jamnabai Narsee schools under the umbrella of the Narsee Educational Trust. Leading us into conversation with our esteemed guest is going to be our trustee, Mr. Sujay Jairaj. Not one to let the pandemic steal our sense of purpose, Mr. Sujay Jairaj had conceptualized these webinars, the Jamnabai Narsee Education Series, as we call them, when we first went into the lockdown, with the intent to offer the opportunity to nurture our intellect, body, and soul. To facilitate this, we have had innumerable experts from a variety of fields share their expertise and offer guidance and support. We have consequently realized not just how to survive, but thrive during the pandemic. We're going to take you through one more exciting video clip. Do watch that, and I will be back thereafter to formally introduce our leading conversationist, if I may call him that, Mr. Sujay Jairaj. Do watch this video clip first.
We are in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and we begin now with a brief lesson in history. Can you name 3 sensations we've imported from Great Britain? John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
I don't know what Beatles means.
Just means us. There was Twiggy, who proved that thin was in, and Chuck and Di, where would People magazine be without them? And now you can add one more to your list. He's Eddie the Eagle Edwards.
The first thing you have to understand about ski jumping is that most normal people don't do it. That wasn't the sound of a jet flying overhead. That's the noise these guys make flying off the 90-meter ramp. Into this world of unlikely human flight has come an unlikely hero.
Eddie! Eddie!
Eddie the Eagle Edwards, a little guy with Coke bottle glasses, out to prove that a construction worker from the English Midlands can fly too. Eddie the Eagle, a true Olympian. Eddie has become the toast of Calgary.
I mean, I've been fighting to get to the Olympics for 11 years, and I finally did it.
An English plasterer from the town of Cheltenham, not a place where Olympic ski jumping dreams are normally born. Eddie's notoriety has made the people of his hometown a little curious about ski jumping.
Eddie Edwards, the ski jumper who's become a cult hero.
We went to the top of Cheltenham's tallest office block, the one, believe it or not, with the eagle outside. This is a 90-meter drop. With Eddie's eyesight, it'll look like this.
It's not that Eddie takes the dangers of ski jumping lightly.
It's always on your mind that your next jump could be your last. The fear's always there. You can't get rid of it. It's just, it turns into a sort of a respect for the hill.
Okay, would you welcome Eddie the Eagle Edwards.
Delightful smiles on the faces of the few people I see on my screen, and I'm sure everybody watching from their homes. Without any further ado, as much as I would like to get into elaborate detail in introducing Trustee Mr. Sujay Jairaj, I think I'll just sum it up by saying I don't know a more zealous sports enthusiast than he is. Constantly striving for excellence in sport, not only himself, but also ensuring everybody around him, the community at large, benefits. Without any further ado, Sujay bhai, we're looking forward to you initiating this conversation with Eddie. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sonali ma'am. A very good morning to you, Eddie, and thank you for joining us live from United Kingdom.
Thank you.
And a very good afternoon to all of us here in India, and a warm welcome to all the attendees joining us today. Eddie, you have been an inspiration to millions with your pure passion, determination, and struggles along the journey, which has been captured and showcased so well in the movie Eddie the Eagle. I have watched the film multiple times, and I'm certain that many of the audience here today have done the same too. For those who know about me are aware that I love sports, and I go out of the way to promote all kinds of sports in my institutions. And in fact, I'm also producing a few sports biopics in India with the aim to motivate the audience as you did in your film. Besides my love for sports, I'm a highly passionate and an avid skier, and I love my mountains. Eddie, I'm going to talk to you later about this. Let me tell you that these frames you see behind me are pictures that I have clicked, and they have always been there behind my desk. In this virtual world of the pandemic, they kind of take me back to the mountains I love. Eddie, in your introduction video, you mentioned that with the challenges and the falls and the fear, you develop a level of respect for the hills. And I completely agree with you there. Without any further ado, let me begin this session. We have, as our audience today, many parents, students, teachers, sports persons, and people from varied backgrounds besides sports. And I feel that there are many life lessons each one of us will learn from you today. Be it to do with sports or achieving something in life, in work, or be it any personal goal. Basically, how to go after your dreams, especially in these challenging times of the pandemic. So to start with, Eddie, my first question would be, so that all of us get to understand and know you better. What kind of a child were you? what kind of challenges and struggles you faced, and what were your dreams in life when you were young?
Well, I think the film really showed the tenacity and the resilience that I had. And I think that resilience came from the fact that I was a middle child. So I've got an older brother and a younger sister, and I had to fight for the attention, and that gave me lots of resilience. But when I was a little boy, I was always a bit of a daredevil. And whenever my friends ever dared me to do something, I would go and do it just for a laugh, just for the crack. If they dared me to go and climb onto a garage roof and jump off, I would go and do it. If they dared me to climb into a tree and jump out, I would go and do it. So I was always a bit of a daredevil. But my mum and dad thought that as I grew up, that I would grow out of it. I would become more sensible. But as I grew up, I got worse, and I did even bigger and more dangerous things. And when I started skiing, that was the perfect sport for me, because I could be as good and as bad as I wanted to be. I could be as dangerous as I wanted to be. I could go fast, I could do jumps, I could do anything. So it was the perfect sport. But as a child, very much a daredevil.
That's great to hear. You are surely a daredevil. All the students watching here today, you have to be a daredevil, but be careful. Take your parents along and let them watch you if you take up some jumps. Over here, I would like to call Aisha, who's our student, to ask you a question.
Hi, Mr. Michael. My name is
Aisha, actually, Aisha, your voice is breaking.
Yeah.
Grade 11. First of all, thank you for being here, and I am extremely grateful to be interacting with you today. After having watched the movie, and you hear me now?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be better if I switch my video off?
Yeah.
Okay. So, after having watched the movie and read up about you, it is safe to say that your story is so inspiring. I'm not a sports person, but I feel like your story is one that can create an impact on a lot of people, because setting high goals and working so very hard to achieve them is something that a lot of us can take back from you. So my first question is that in past interviews, you said that the movie documented a very small percentage of your actual journey to the Olympics. So could you tell us a little bit about how you personally feel about the movie, and also if there is any prominent incident in your journey to the Olympics that was not showcased?
Yes, first of all, I loved the film. I thought they did a wonderful job with the movie. And originally, they said there was only a very small percentage of the film was about my life. But having watched the film, and I've watched the film now over 100 times because I love it so much, it's a lot more true to life than I first anticipated. And now I think the movie is more like 80% true, 85% true, but it only represents about 20 or 30% of my life as a ski jumper. There was so much more that they could have put in the film, but they had to keep the film down to a certain length. And so they left a lot of things out. But what they did use, they did really, really well. And some of the things they had to cut down, for instance, I had about 20, maybe 25 different coaches on my way to Calgary, but they couldn't put all 25 coaches in the film. It would have been very, very confusing. So they used Hugh Jackman, and they took elements from all my coaches and put them into the one character. So Hugh Jackman was like an amalgamation of all my coaches, but none of my coaches were as good looking as Hugh Jackman, unfortunately. But it's things like that, really. But they did a great job with the film. They really captured the heart and spirit and essence of my story. It really showed the tenacity and the resilience that I needed to do what I wanted to do. I had a dream since I was a little boy to go to the Olympic Games, and I managed to make my dream come true. And they captured that really, really well.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so great that we could witness a little bit of your life.
Oh, right.
Aisha, we cannot hear you.
And a half. So really, that's great to hear that the movie captured so much.
Oh, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My second question is that we all know that your biggest goal was to compete at the Olympics.
Yes.
But what really triggered your desire to want to go to this specific competition?
As I say, yes, it was a dream of mine since I was about 8 years old to go to the Olympic Games. And that was because I used to watch the Olympics on television when I was a little boy. And I used to watch athletics and lots of different sports. And I thought whatever sport I watched, I thought it was really cool to see guys from Great Britain, and they were walking around with Great Britain on their tracksuit, on the back of their tracksuit, and they would walk around with their head held high, and they were very proud to represent their country at their sport. And because I was so into sport, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to have England and then Great Britain on my back of my tracksuit, so I could walk around and say, I'm the best at my sport for my country, and I'm going to represent my country. And then I didn't know what sport I was going to do, because I loved all sports when I was a little boy. I loved cricket, football, rugby. I loved athletics, running and throwing the javelin and the shot and all that kind of thing, the discus. I loved kung fu, karate, judo, tennis, squash, badminton, all kinds of sports. But it wasn't until I started skiing on a school ski trip, and I thought, wow, this is such a great sport. And then that was it. This is the sport I wanted to do. And but I never lost sight of going to the Olympic Games. And so I thought, I wonder if I can go to the Olympic Games as a skier. And I went for the 1984 Olympics as a downhill racer. And although I was in the squad, I didn't make the team to go to Sarajevo in 1984. And then I switched to ski jumping. And then in 1988 in Calgary, I managed to go there and compete. So, about 20 years later, I still managed to make my dream come true.
Yes. That's so inspiring. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Eddie, that's lovely. Just to hear the fact that, you wanted to wear your country's name on your back and get a medal, that gets goosebumps to all of us. And to walk with that with the head held high.
That's right.
Really, that's, I think, the most important key that really matters.
Yes, I think sport does that. I think lots of different things. If you're very good at something, whether it's sport or in academics or in business, it gives you the confidence, and you can hold your head up high because you know so much, and knowing more gives you even more confidence. Being good at something gives you even more confidence. So I think it's very, very important.
Right. So Eddie, as we have a lot of parents watching us today, can you tell us the role of the parent in being a part of the success story of their children? What was your equation with your parents? What are the do's and don'ts? What kind of support should be given, and how far should you or should you not push your child?
That's a difficult question. In the film, they pretended that my dad was not very supportive, but my mum was very supportive. But in real life, my dad was just as supportive as my mum. It was just when I used to work with my dad in construction, I wanted to finish early so that I could go training, because I wanted to go running, cycling, go to the gym, and then go skiing. So I wanted to finish work early. And my dad, I used to work with my dad, he didn't like the fact that I wanted to finish work early. So they only wanted that little bit of him when he was a little bit narky in the film. So everybody thought that he wasn't very supportive, but he was really, really supportive. He used to drive me all around the UK to competitions so that I could compete. And he helped support me financially as well. So, he had to pay for the hotels and the food and the petrol and all that kind of thing. So my mum and dad supported me financially as well. And just knowing that they were there, with a bit of encouragement when things weren't going so well, they were really, really good. But also, they didn't push me. They let me do what I wanted to do, and they never stopped me doing anything that I wanted to do. Even though I might have hurt myself doing it, they felt that by doing it, if I did hurt myself, I would learn from those lessons. So it's great to be encouraged, but not to be pushed, because then it was up to me. And they knew that if I wanted to go somewhere, it was entirely up to me, and how much did I want to get that situation? How much did I want to get to Olympics? And if I wanted it badly enough, I would do what I had to do to get there. And so by encouraging me but not pushing me, you know, it was up to me to do and get on with it, really. So I think that's really, really important.
Right. I think, Eddie, that's a very strong and great statement, that you need to encourage your kids but not push them, but provide the support mentally, physically, and financially for them to fly in their life.
Yes,
you know, so
that's right. Give them the freedom to make their decisions and learn from their mistakes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Yes.
So Eddie, I would like to now concentrate on the challenges and the hardships you faced. Firstly, the personal, not having the natural ability to excel in sports, the eyesight, the weight, and much more. And secondly, the financial, the challenge of fighting with the world and proving a point. Please take us through your journey of hardships. Besides many other instances, what I hear and read is that you used to wear 6 pairs of socks to make the boots. Please tell us more.
Yes, it was especially evident when I started ski jumping, because all through my life as a child growing up and started skiing, I knew that skiing was a rich man's sport. In the UK, the more money you have, the more chance you have of competing at any sport, really, but especially skiing, because we don't really have any snow, so you've got to travel a lot, so it's very expensive. So I had that hurdle straight away. But when I started ski jumping, I had nothing. I didn't know where the ski jumps were. I didn't know anything about ski jumping, so I had to find out about it too, and I still had that problem with no money. And so I first started ski jumping in America. I was there racing and I ran out of money. So I decided, do I fly back to the UK and go back to plastering, or shall I find something cheaper to do? And I saw ski jumping, and ski jumping is a little bit more cheaper than alpine skiing. And I went and knocked on the door, and they said, there's a lost property shed. Go and find some equipment that fits and have a go. So I rummaged around and I started with this very old ski jumping equipment. And then I borrowed my mum's and dad's car when I came back to the UK. I drove my mum's car into Europe. And then I slept in a mental hospital in Finland to do my ski jumping, because it was a cheap place to stay. And that incident with the socks, it was on Boxing Day. I was doing a competition and I was training for this competition, and my ski jumping boots split and I didn't have a pair of boots, but one of the jumpers had a spare pair, but they were 4 sizes too big for me. So I stuffed socks down the boot to make them fit a little bit better. And I managed to carry on. But I was prepared to do anything so long as I can carry on doing the sport that I loved. And so even though I didn't have any money, I would ask, or people would donate. You know, there were so many countries who donated things to me. When I was training in Switzerland, the Austrian team gave me a newer pair of skis. The Italian team gave me a helmet and a pair of goggles. The French team gave me some wax for my skis. The Swiss team gave me some coaching. The German team gave me a jumping suit. So all these different teams were chipping in with equipment and giving and donating things to me, because they saw that I was from Great Britain. I had no snow, no ski jumps, no money, no trainer, no equipment, nothing. And so they were helping me along the way. So they were very, very nice.
That's great. So, you know, all the audience watching this, I would like to tell you that you look at the determination and the passion Eddie has, that once you have a dream and once you have a goal, don't let anything deter you. Just go after your dreams, and I'm sure things will fall into place.
Absolutely, yes. Never lose sight. I had small-term goals, weekly goals. I had monthly goals, and then I had that big goal at the end, the Olympics, and I never lost sight of that Olympic goal. And I was prepared to do anything to try and make sure that I got there. And I was lucky that I got there in the end. I know it was hard work, but there was an element of luck too. But never lose sight of that dream.
Right. So in fact, I believe that to be successful in life, one needs to have a dream and then work very hard with integrity and passion with the right value system to achieve that dream. And of course, there will be ups and downs in life. but the perseverance and determination of never to give up in life is something that brings those few people apart. On this note, I would like to ask Mukund to ask a few questions to Eddie.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Edwards. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
My name is Mukund. I just graduated from Jamnabai Narsee School this year. And the funny thing about my interaction with you today is that you're based in the UK, but you're attending virtually an event from a Mumbai-based school. And I currently am sitting here in Mumbai, but I attend a university in the UK virtually. So
Excellent.
So my question is, sir, that a lot of people have dreams. Most of us do have dreams. But when faced with obstacles or challenges, a lot of people, they lose sight of their dreams, or they kind of get wavered from the path of achieving their dreams. Now, you, for one, always stuck to your larger dream of competing at the Olympics. Despite various challenges and hardships, you had to change sporting forms, you had a major injury in your childhood. So what kept you going? And how should we, despite so many obstacles and challenges we might face, adapt and move on in pursuit of achieving our dreams?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. Yes, I always had that long-term goal, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. And I thought, if I just go in a straight line and hitting all these obstacles, is it worth it? So I decided that sometimes I had to move slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Sometimes I had to take a couple of paces back and relax and recover from an injury or whatever, or work to save up some money so that I could change direction slightly. So I always knew that I wanted to get there, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. And so I think it's very important to be flexible too, and not just realize that this dream is just a straight line and this is the way you're going to go. Sometimes you might think, you might not realize that you've got to take a few steps to the left and to the right and change direction slightly, or take a few steps back to be able to go forward again. But so long as you never lose sight of that dream, I think, you might not get there, but you might get halfway there or 3/4 of the way there, or you might get the whole way there. But it's still important to have that dream, and you will progress, most of the way there. And I was always happy just competing. I managed to get there to the Olympic Games, but I didn't do very well. I came 58th, but that didn't matter because my dream was to get there. And I knew that I wasn't going to beat anybody. I'd only been jumping for 2 years when I went to Calgary. Everybody else had been jumping for 25 years. I said, there's no way that I'm going to beat anybody, but that didn't matter. For me, just getting there was my gold medal. So so never lose sight of that dream, and be adaptable, be flexible. And you can still make it most of the way there or all the way there if you're lucky and you work hard.
And so since you mentioned that you came 58th, it reminds me of a very famous quote from Pierre de Coubertin, which was also shown in the movie, that the triumph is not more important than the fight. And it is my belief that in your fight, actually, that was your biggest triumph. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's right. That's definitely, yes. Getting there was wonderful, and it was a dream come true. But I've learned so much more by just on that journey, getting there. The people that I met, the places that I went to, the experiences that I had are much more valuable than just simply getting to those Olympic Games. Getting there was wonderful, and I had a great time, and becoming Eddie the Eagle was a bit of a bonus, and I can't believe I'm still talking about it 30 odd years later and having a movie made. But for me, the journey was definitely, I realized afterwards that the journey was the most important thing, and that made me into the person that I am now. So yes, definitely, you will learn a lot on your way to achieving your dream.
Thank you so much, sir. It was an honor to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mukund. Can I invite Karan now to ask his questions?
Sure.
Hey, Eddie, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Eddie, I am from the same school. I've been to Jamnabai Narsee School, and I am currently a professional football player in the Indian Super League. That's like the Premiership in England. And for me, from my school, I mean, from the city as well, no one's ever played in the Indian Super League. For me, I mean, it was very hard because everyone either went into academics or if they ever played a sport, they played cricket.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges you faced in that aspect? Because I've met a lot of people who've demotivated me or they've given me their opinions, or, you know, how do you still vibrate with the energy that you still have today, that big smile on your face? How do you maintain that, and how did you have that vision? What did you do different?
Well, when I started skiing on a school ski trip. So I started skiing at 13. And when I really got into skiing, because it only took a few weeks before I realized, I thought, wow, this is the sport for me, and I want to go to the Olympic Games. So I told everybody in the school, I want to go to the Olympic Games as a skier, and everybody just laughed. They said, it's not possible. It's absolutely impossible. We don't have snow. You know, it's too late. All the skiers start when they're 2 or 3 years old. You're 13 when you started. You've got no chance. But I've always had this thing that whenever somebody tells me that I can't do something, that to me is like a red rag to a bull. It makes me more determined to prove them wrong. And the more that people told me that I couldn't do something, the more that inspired me to prove them wrong. So when I got to Calgary, everybody just looked and they went, wow, I cannot believe you managed to achieve it. And I really used their negativity in a positive way. It made me more determined to do what I wanted to do. So that's what I used. And of course I was frightened. You know, every time I ski jumped, I was very, very scared, but I used that in a good way. So I used it to make me focus, make me concentrate harder, to make sure that I landed safely. And so I use these things in a good way rather than just think, oh, they're right, I can't do it. And that just shows that you didn't have that dream, that you didn't have that strength of mind in the first place. But I used everything in a positive way to achieve what I wanted to do. So the more that people were saying, no, it's not possible, I think, yes, it is. And I'm going to prove to you that it is possible. So yeah, keep going.
Absolutely. And after watching your movie, I got more inspired, more motivated, because it's not only about the destination, it's the journey that matters.
Yes,
it's
absolutely
it's the journey, because I come from a city that plays cricket, and I've now become a football player. So it was very different for me. But after watching your movie, I've taken that inspiration, taken that motivation. Eddie, my second question to you is, I'm sure you had a set training schedule, you had a set schedule for your nutrition as well. But did you do something different other than that in your schedule, like a morning routine or something that probably visualization that you want to go to the Olympics? Did you do any of that?
Yes, it was. And I was doing it before I was aware that it was an important thing to do. When I learned to ski and I started racing around the UK, you go to all these different races and you're doing slalom, and so you have to imagine yourself going through the gates, going to the left, to the right, to the left, and memorizing the course. And I had to visualize this all the time. And when I wanted to become a better skier, I would watch people and see how they're doing it and break it all down. Of course, we didn't have video cameras back then. They were very expensive and I was on my own. I couldn't afford it. So I used to watch people very, very carefully. So I used all these kind of things as well. But visualization is so important, especially for ski jumping. If I can't ski jump for 3 or 4 months because, waiting for spring to summer or autumn to winter, I would sit in a room and imagine myself walking up the ski jump, putting my skis on, coming down, taking off, and feeling everything that I would feel, see everything that I would see, and I would go through it in my mind, and it was just like ski jumping. So that if I had a 2-month break, when I went back to ski jumping, it was like I'd never been away, because I was constantly going over it in my mind, what it was like to ski jump. And so I think that's really, really important. And I was doing it much more or much earlier than I realized how important it was. So it was a good tool to have.
Absolutely. After a point, it becomes second nature. I mean, even before every game or every training session, probably I want to think about, I'm going to score a goal or I'm going to do that and do things differently, improve every single day, even if it's 1 or 2%. But exactly. And my last question to you, Eddie, did you have a mentor in your life or someone you idolized If yes, do you also believe that everyone should have a mentor in the field that they are in?
I think so, yes. I think it's important because, that's a part of the motivation and the inspiration for me to achieve my dream. When I was a boy, I used to love watching. We have a program in the UK called Ski Sunday, and they used to show all the World Cup downhill races on the World Cup circuit. And I used to watch it so avidly every week. My eyes would be glued to the telly to watch Ski Sunday. And I used to watch Ingemar Stenmark back then. And he was a superb alpine skier, slalom, giant slalom, technically brilliant. He used to win a lot of the World Cups in slalom and giant slalom. And I idolized Ingemar Stenmark. And then about 10, 15 years ago, I met him in a big celebrity golf event in Rome. And I went, oh my God, I'm meeting Ingemar Stenmark. And I used to idolize this guy so much. And he was so nice. He was very quiet, very unassuming. But it was wonderful to meet him. But I had Ingemar Stenmark, Franz Klammer. I used to idolize him as well. I had his posters on my walls. And I thought, wow, I want to be like them. I want to achieve what they've achieved. I want to race in the World Cup like them and all that kind of thing. So I think it's important to help me with my motivation and inspiration to achieve my dream. Definitely to have idols.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you so much for your time.
And good luck with your football.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karan. So Eddie, to let you know, I heard you say that you started learning skiing during your school, one of the school trips. So in fact, our school trips also go to Switzerland, Verbier. We have a ski trip, and almost 100 students go each year for skiing. And we hope that in future we have some professional skiers and maybe ski jumpers after they take motivation from you.
Great. No, that's great. Yeah, I started on a school ski trip, and my very first holiday to Italy on a school ski trip, and that changed my life, and it led to a whole career. So I thank my lucky stars that my mum and dad paid for my very first ski trip with the school, and it was wonderful.
Right. So I'll ask you one last question, after which Ms. Sonali will take audience questions. So Eddie, you struggled, you worked very hard, you went through all the challenges, and after all the years of these hardships, that day came when you were on that slope, ready to make your jump in the Olympics, in front of the crowd and in front of the world. Tell us about that feeling when you were in the air for those few seconds and the emotions you had after landing.
Oh, it was wonderful. I can remember it like it was yesterday. The crowd were just amazing because they started shouting, Eddie, Eddie, a few people before I was ready to go. And then to go out there and put my skis on, it was a beautiful blue day, a blue sky. There was 90,000 people in the stadium and all these TV cameras were pointing. I was very, very nervous because I thought, oh my God, if I fall over in front of all these people, I'm going to be very annoyed. But it was wonderful. I sat there getting ready to go, and the coach waved his hand, and off I came down. I started coming down. I could still hear the crowd. And then when I took off, jumped through the air, and I managed to break the British record, 71 meters. So I was really pleased that I managed to achieve something, because there was no way that I was going to beat anybody. But I thought, if I can break my record and jump further than I've ever jumped before in that kind of competition, then I would have achieved something. And so I broke the British records, and it was wonderful to land on my feet, and the whole crowd went nuts, because I think half the crowd thought I was going to fall over and break my neck. So I was very lucky that I landed on my feet and get a British record, and the crowd were going nuts, and it was wonderful. And they eventually calmed down, but I can remember it like it was yesterday, even though it's been 32 years.
In fact, you broke the Olympic ski record. I think also the record went on till the early 2000s. Yes. I think that's a great achievement, Eddie. Very well done, of course.
Thank you.
I would now like to call Ms. Sonali to take some audience questions.
Sure. At this point, let me remind you attendees, please feel free to send in any comments or questions that you may have. I'll begin by sharing the few that we do already. Eddie, we have somebody commenting that this interaction with you has come at a time when she really needed this push. She comments that it's very difficult to keep up with motivation when you tend to get injured often. So how is it that you're able to push back and start all over again in spite of grievous injury?
Well, I regarded injuries as just a little bit of inconvenience, really. I looked at the positives. I thought, well, if I'm injured, I can relax a little bit. I can take a bit of time off from training, wait for my injury to get better. I can look at other aspects of what I was doing, read books about the sport, look at competitions and study how they're doing their technique and that kind of thing. So I can look at that more than I would really normally do, because I'd be so busy working on myself. So when I was injured, I would look at other aspects that I can improve on and use to help me, go about my sport. But I knew that my injury was only short term, and as soon as it got better, then I could get straight back into getting stronger, getting fitter, and making sure that I learned from that mistake when I got injured, if it was a mistake, and I learned from that. And so I always just grabbed the positives from everything. So even though I was injured, I was a little bit inconvenient, and it slowed things down, but I still managed to get positives from it. So by looking at other aspects, training techniques, looking at those things while I couldn't do it, and then worked on a plan and then get ready so that as soon as I got well again, I could get out there blazing and going for that dream again.
Right.
Yes, that's absolutely wonderful, and it's your attitude, offers this very fresh tweak in perspective for so many people. I mean, no matter what the metaphoric injury in their life may be, I think just the perspective that you offer would help resolve so many problems.
Yes.
We also have somebody asking that professional skiing is a very dangerous sport, and comes along with that comment the statement that one of the greatest sportsmen, Michael Schumacher, hurt himself due to the sport. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, it is. It is a very dangerous sport, and with skiing, there's I think 90% of skiers think they're better than they actually are. So although you're a very good skier, you always have to remember that there are other people around. There's you can make very silly mistakes, and just making the very smallest mistake can be turned into a very big deal. You could get really seriously injured. So I always knew that I had to do things by the book as much as I could. I would train hard. I thought the fitter I am, the less likelihood of injury. But at the same time, you need to push yourself as well. I needed to push and expand those boundaries, and that's the only way I could get better. So there's that risk as well that if you push too hard, you will over push and you will fall and you will injure yourself. But at the same time, you still need to push those boundaries. So for me, it was just little steps. I would push a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, but I wouldn't push too hard, and I would get better and better slowly, and not just think, next week I'm going to jump 130 meters when this week I'm only jumping 30. It's not possible. I would take little steps and, little improvements. And I think that helped me, by not pushing myself too hard. I was lucky that I didn't have as many accidents as I could have had, I suppose.
Yes, so not pushing someone too hard is clearly necessary, not just from parent to child, but even for oneself.
Absolutely, yes. Not push too hard, but still make those improvements. You make them over a week, not over 24 hours. You can push yourself a little bit too hard sometimes, and if you push it too hard, the consequences could be horrendous.
One follow-up question here, Eddie. Out of when you were practicing for the ski jumps, out of 10 jumps, in how many jumps would you land on your feet, and how many jumps would you fall?
Actually, in my career as a ski jumper, I did about 45,000 ski jumps, and I fell over about 80 times. And out of those 80 falls, I hurt myself about 8 times. So 8 injuries out of 45,000 jumps. So it's one injury every 5,000 jumps, I suppose, on average.
Right.
So it's not a bad average, because 5,000 jumps might be 1 year. One injury a year. I might get 2 injuries in a week and then not have any injuries for another 6 months or 10 months or 2 years. So it's not a bad average, really.
No, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, that's a great average.
Yes.
May I go on to the next one?
Yeah.
Eddie, we have among our attendees people hesitant to ask but curious to know whether you still ski and what is your age currently.
I'm 56 now, and I still ski. I still ski as much as I can. Last winter, I was away 3 times, but then the COVID virus happened, and I had 4 ski trips had to be cancelled because of the COVID. I'm still ski jumping. I was due to go ski jumping in Finland in July, but that got cancelled also because of the COVID. But they've moved it to next July. So hopefully next year I will be in Finland doing some ski jumping. And this coming winter, depending on the situation, whether I can get out there, I want to go skiing to France and Italy and Austria, if it's possible. And I might even do some ski jumping as well. So yes, 56, I'm probably fitter now than I was when I was 24, when I went to Calgary. And while I remain as fit as possible, I want to ski and ski jump as much as I can.
Yes, we believe you with the with the vitality and energy and life force that is evident only on a virtual screen. We totally believe you. Yes, we can only imagine what it is like to meet you in person. How do we improve on our self-belief? Asks one of our attendees. What if somebody doesn't have all the privileges? How can you give them some inspiration to augment their self-belief?
Gosh, I've always been very highly motivated. And I think that came from being a middle child. My older brother was the firstborn, the golden child. And my younger sister was the daughter that my mum had always wanted. And there was me in the middle, and I had to fight all the time for the attention. And I think that fight gave me this ability to be very self-motivated. I didn't need somebody to motivate me. I could motivate myself by having these things. Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And I would ask these questions, and then I would sort them out, and what makes me happy, and go for it. So I'd rather be happy than sad. And I think, well, what makes me happy? I like getting out doing things. I like doing my sport. So I would do things that make me happy. I don't believe in doing anything that you don't get any encouragement, or you don't get any happiness from. So do what makes you happy, and then you can go from there. And there are lots of people who will encourage you and use that as well, and just use any vehicle at all to get that inspiration and self-motivate and go for it. But I was very self-motivated. I didn't need somebody telling me what I was capable of. I was determined to do what I wanted to do.
Yes, and that seems to be a very infectious trait that you are definitely passing on to our viewers here.
Thank you.
We have somebody asking, isn't it difficult to keep balance between work, life, and sports, as a passion? Because after all, sports does require a lot of time and dedication.
Yes, I think it can be very difficult. And also things can change. When sport is a hobby, it's great and you enjoy doing it. But then when it becomes a job, you start losing your enthusiasm sometimes for it. So I think that's important to have other interests as well. So although I loved my sport, I did like doing other things. I did like plastering and working in construction with my dad. So it's important to take these breaks. So when I'm doing my sport, it's wonderful. But then I would step back for a few hours, go and do some work with my dad, or go and study, or do something else, just to switch off and do something different. And then when I go back to my sport, I'm keen and I want to do better than I did before, and that kind of thing. So I think it's very difficult if you're doing it every hour, every day. What also helped was the different sports that I did. I used to love going running and jogging. I used to love cycling. I loved going to the gym, and I loved doing all my technique training for my skiing and my ski jumping. So those help as well. Choosing lots of different sports. You don't get that monotony of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that helped as well. Variety and having other interests.
Yes, that's a wonderful response for everybody here. Somebody would like to know how your life changed after your experience at the Olympics. Did people still try to discourage you after the Olympics and ask you to get into a real profession?
Yeah, my grandmother, after Calgary, after I went to Olympics, my grandmother said, when are you going to get a proper job? So she was always going on to me about that. But yeah, my life just went upside down after Calgary. And the British Ski Federation didn't like what happened at Calgary. They said it was not right that a guy who came 58th should get more attention than the guy who won the medals, the gold medal. And they thought I was making a mock of the sport and bringing the sport into disrepute. So they banned me from the British team and from the Olympic team. And so the only thing open to me was to take on this Eddie the Eagle role. And so I traveled all over the world, opening shopping centers, golf courses, hotels, ski resorts, doing all kinds of things, TV shows, radio shows, and making some money that way, earning a living. And then I got a very good sponsor and went for the '98 Olympics. Got much better at ski jumping. Then I retired and went back to school and studied law and did my law degree and that kind of thing. So all in all, I've kind of done lots of different things after Calgary, and now I'm in construction for a little while, renovating a house, because all my speaking, normally I would do lots of speaking events. I would go and speak at dinners, lunches. I would speak at conferences. I would do between 5 and 8 speeches a week. But of course, because of the COVID, everything has stopped. So I've gone into my old job as in construction for a few months, maybe a year, and then I'll get back to speaking next year, hopefully.
Well, we are very, very grateful in that case that COVID didn't stop us from having this speaking engagement with you.
Yes. I mean, technology is wonderful. Who would have thought that 20 years ago, now that, 20 years later, we'd have Zoom and all this sort of thing, and I can do lots of talks, virtually via the laptop. It's very handy.
Yes, absolutely. We have a young student from our school in another state asking, very simply, what is your most memorable moment?
I think I have a few. My most memorable moment in my sport is the Olympic Games and competing at the Olympic Games and the World Championships. From a personal point of view, my most memorable moment was the birth of my 2 girls. I've got 2 girls, now they're 13 and 16, so they're teenagers now. But being at the birth was just wonderful, to see them being born and things like that. That was just incredible. Also doing, I did a big TV show in the UK called Splash, where you were taught to do springboard diving, and I won the first series. And from that show, they made the film. So doing Splash and then having the film made. So all in all, I probably got 4 very, very memorable moments in my life.
I'm sure that's not a question posed at you all the time, and you didn't blink before answering it. So those certainly are your 4 most memorable moments. We have a few people actually commenting on how lively you seem to be. What's your secret? Asks the audience.
I don't know really. I'm always, I guess I always try and keep fit. I'm always a happy, more positive person. I'm a glass half full rather than a glass half empty.
Yes.
So yeah, and I think it's a lovely attitude to have. I always look at the bright side, look at the positive things in life. And that sort of, keeps me going. I think just living is just wonderful. Having this gift of life, and I want to live it to the full, every moment of every day. I want to live it like it's my last. So, and I think that's quite a nice way to go.
That's right. We have a question from a sports champion's parent, a sports person's mother, specifically asking that before you took your Olympic jump, how did you keep your nerves? How much of your training or mental strength helped you at that crucial moment?
Well, I'd done a few competitions before Calgary, but nothing as big as Calgary. It was, I think, if anything, the importance, the grandness of the moment, you know, having that 90,000 people in the stadium getting ready to go, I think that helped, because I wanted to show them that Great Britain and that Eddie the Eagle, you know, could be a ski jumper. And so in a way that helped me it gave me the confidence to go out there and show them. And so I used that as a way to cope with the nerves. Yes, I was very, very nervous, but by getting out there and attacking it and saying, yes, here I am, and I'm going to do the biggest jump of my life, and for everybody here. And I went out there and did it. So yes, I really really got a lot of strength, mental strength, from that moment in Calgary, with all those crowds, with all of those people cheering and everything else. So it was a great bonus, really.
Yes, absolutely. Did you ever get a feeling about whether the effort is really going to be fruitful? Is it going to be worthwhile? What was your motivation? If you did ever experience that, you know, moment of doubt, wondering whether it was all going to be worthwhile, what was your motivation to help you come out of that kind of a negative thought?
Well, for me, because I was very much a beginner as a ski jumper, even at Calgary, I'd only been jumping for 20 months, whereas everybody else had been jumping for 20 odd years. I was constantly improving, and that was the motivation for me to keep going. So long as I keep getting better, then I knew that I was doing something worthwhile. If I spent a month or two where I just wasn't going anywhere, or not jumping further, or if anything, jumping less, then I probably would have think, you know, is it worth carrying on? But for me, because I kept getting better and better, that was the motivation, to see how far I could go. And of course, people were always telling me, you're not going to be able to jump further than 60 meters. So that I'm going to show you. And I jumped 70 meters, and they would say, oh, well, you'll never jump any more than 70. And I thought, oh, well, I can show you that we can, and I'll go for 80 meters. So I was constantly pushing to get better and better and better. So even those negative things, I use them, well, I'm going to show you. And so I would turn it around and use it as a positive to drive myself forwards, to prove them wrong. That was a big issue for me, proving people wrong.
Yes, that's been very, very inspirational, I'm sure, for all young and old listening on here. I'm going to have just enough time to squeeze in one more question.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, we are keen to know whether your daughters pursue sport as well, with the kind of, you know, familial background, whether they've got push on that front.
Well, I did
encouragement, really. I stand corrected. Encouragement, not push. Yes.
Yeah, I did encourage them to start skiing, and my girls learned to ski when they were quite young. I think they were 4 and 6 when they started skiing, and they did enjoy it. But I only take them skiing if they ask to go skiing, and if they don't ask, then I think, well, they'd rather do something else. They do horse riding, because my ex-wife was into horses. She'd had horses all her life, and they still horse ride. But I will only take them skiing if they actually ask to go skiing. That way, I know that they want to go skiing, and not me forcing them or pushing them or pressurizing them to go skiing. And so they're not really, I don't think they have the mindset to be you know, top athletes, but I want them to do the sport because it gives them confidence, it gives them fitness, it makes them feel good. So I would rather them do lots of different sports and be happy and be confident, and get inspiration from the sports without necessarily wanting to become a top athlete. As long as they're happy, that's the main thing. And with skiing, it's one of those things they can dip in and out of. So they haven't skied for a few years, but they might come to me next week and say, Daddy, can we go skiing? And then I'll be happy to take them skiing. So, but I'll only take them if they ask. I don't want to push it on them.
Yes. happy being the word to zero in on here. Yes, that's wonderful advice to people following you. Thank you so much. Inviting Mr. Sujay Jairaj once more to share some thoughts.
Yes. Eddie, I would like to thank you for this highly insightful and inspirational chat with us today.
Thank you.
I'm sure many of us will leave this session here thinking, what is that we want to achieve and how never to give up in life? To have a dream, to believe in yourself, and to make sure you put your best foot forward no matter what. So thank you once again, Eddie. And I hope I can come and ski with you sometime after the COVID situation improves. So
yes.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
That would be lovely. Thank you. And I'm glad you all like the film. I hope you continue to like the film and realize that, you can achieve anything if you have the resilience, the tenacity, and you never, ever give up. You can achieve anything in life. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you all in the flesh at some time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eddie.
If I may offer the formal vote of thanks now. To begin with, as usual, we are tremendously grateful to our trustee, Mr. Sujay Jairaj. I mean, he's an absolutely fantastic visionary whose love for technology, for infrastructure, for sports translates into such wonderful opportunities and experiences for everybody around. The results are there for everyone to see. We have students, the likes of Karan Soni, who shine when they grow older thanks to the opportunities they get right here while they are at school. Mr. Sujay Jairaj, thank you for conceptualizing these webinars that have helped us in so many ways, not only during the lockdown, but they continue to do so even now. Many, many, many thanks to you, Eddie. You've been absolutely wonderful. As I scroll through the comments sent in live by our audience, zeal seems to be the word that stands out more than any other. You've taught us in each of your responses, in each of the little anecdotes you've shared, you've taught us huge lessons in just how to live more gracefully, how to be effective parents, how to be determined, goal-seeking students, and for all these little reminders, so memorably shared. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our current and former students who enthusiastically have participated in this conversation here today. And of course, to all the people behind the scenes who make these webinars possible. It's been a very memorable afternoon, I hope, for everyone who's attended, and have a wonderful day ahead. Once again, on behalf of everyone, a big thank you to all involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.